Today on GBA-Z, we're taking a look at the Pinball of the Dead.
Shoot, tilt, and flip your way across 3 multi-tiered boards filled with zombies, traps, hidden horrors, vile bosses, and more in this action pinball game based on the House of the Dead series.
Developed by Sega's WoW Entertainment, the Pinball of the Dead is based on the House of the Dead 2 and was released exclusively for the Game Boy Advance in 2002, the same year that the House of the Dead 3 released in arcades. You have to respect a franchise that starts off as a horror light gun rail shooter and then branches out into all kinds of things like The Typing of the Dead, Zombie Revenge, English of the Dead, Darts of the Dead, 2 abysmal full-length feature films, and other sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and remakes. You probably think that I added Darts of the Dead to the previous list for a quick joke, but nope, that was a real game made by human beings. A horror-themed pinball machine isn't anything new. I'm not exactly sure what the first one ever released was, but Bally's Centaur from 1981 and the 3-floor 8-flipper game Haunted House from 1982 are 2 of the earliest ones. Side note, I recently played Haunted House for the first time, and it holds up. Since then, there's been a bunch more like The Addams Family, Twilight Zone, Nightmare on Elm Street, Tales from the Crypt, and Scared Stiff featuring Elvira. The idea behind the Pinball of the Dead isn't anything new either. It's a video game designed to be played in the style of an actual physical pinball machine. The Atari 2600 had video pinball in 1980, the Nintendo Entertainment System had pinball in 1984, and since then there have been many other pinball video games like Devil's Crush, Dino Land, Kirby's Pinball, Metroid Pinball, Crew Ball featuring Motley Crue, Pac-Man Pinball, and who can forget Sonic Spinball. You probably think I added Crew Ball to the previous list for a quick joke, but nope, that is a real game made by human beings. There have even been pinball games based on real-life pinball machines like Pinbot in 1990, which is a conversion of the 1986 Williams table with some added features. There are 3 tables to play and each sport their own distinct main color and theme: Wandering with green, Movement with blue, and Cemetery with red. When starting the game, you can choose between Normal Mode, which lets you freely play any of the stages, or Challenge Mode, which has you playing them in succession. The goal of Normal Mode is trying to score as many points as you can with a maximum possible score of a 9,999,999,990. After beating all 6 bosses in Normal Mode, it will loop back to the first, and in Challenge Mode, you will advance to the next table. Even with so many things happening simultaneously, I've never experienced any slowdown and the screen scrolling works as intended. There are 4 different button configurations to pick from. I prefer Type B, which has the left and right shoulder buttons controlling the flippers, A and B shooting the ball, and the D-pad nudging the table in its respective direction. Before beginning a round, you can get one of 11 mystery bonuses by making a skill shot. Just take the shot when your crosshair is over the target enemy, and if landed, you'll hear a confirmation followed by being awarded the bonus. Some examples are millions of points, an extra ball, making the boss instantly available, a multiplier increase, and super kickback. Kickback is when the ball is going to be lost on the left or right sides, but instead gets shot back onto the playfield. Pinball can be a pretty challenging game depending on which machine you're playing, not only figuring out what you have to do, when you have to do it, and how to get it done, but also physically getting the ball where it needs to go. The difficulty of these tables is nowhere near that of most physical pinball machines. In the beginning, beating any of them, and especially Challenge Mode, might seem impossible, but the more you play, you'll see that it's easier to complete than you might have thought. Pinball of the Dead offers an extensive tutorial. They break down the playfield, the stage, and the bonuses. The playfield section discusses how the table physically works, including the flippers, lights, and bumpers. The table breakdown is an extensive look into the objectives, appearance conditions, and other gimmicks, and the bonus section explains what all 11 of them do. You can also turn off the tutorials to go in blind. There are various things to see and experience on all the tables, like words to spell out, enemies to kill, bonuses to find, and different events to unlock. Meet certain conditions and the next boss will become available. Meet those conditions more than once and you'll fight them with a multi-ball. The 6 bosses are the same ones from the House of the Dead 2, Judgment Type 28, Hierophant Type B, Tower Type 8000, and Strength Type 205. Magician Type 0 and Emperor Type Alpha both come with their signature music. Each table has a pair of Kickback David who are located down towards the bottom of the table, and their sole purpose is to be killed in order to give you a kickback bonus on the side that they're located on. As soon as you have to use it to save a ball, they will reappear again and again to have the process repeat infinitely. The tables also have their own unique features or gimmicks to make them stand out. We'll take a look at a few from each now. Wondering has my favorite colored table with a large clock towards the bottom. There's a civilian rescue event that will appear after spelling out chaos. It has you defeating zombies to keep the citizens from being attacked. You'll need to figure out how to make Steve from the House of the Dead 2 appear. After doing so and beating the first 5 stage bosses, he'll take you to the final boss. Movement might be the most interesting table mechanic-wise. It's the only table with a sub-level called the Dump Tank and has its own set of flippers, very reminiscent of the real-life Haunted House table that I brought up earlier. In order to fight any boss, you'll have to shoot the ball around the loop at the top of the table called the culture tank. Each time your ball makes the loop, the creature will grow, and when it's fully grown, the next boss becomes available. Cemetery has the most unique appearance as it looks like you're playing on the inside of a body or something like that. Johnny from the House of the Dead 2 makes an appearance. If you hit him enough times, he'll open his mouth. If you then shoot the ball into his mouth, Ricky will appear. Cemetery follows the same pattern as Wondering to take you to the final boss as long as you've already beaten the first 5. The soundtrack clocks in at 10 songs. Just like with Medal of Honor Infiltrator, they are electronic versions or demakes of classic House of the Dead 2 tracks. There's not anything bad on the soundtrack, which shouldn't come as a surprise as the House of the Dead series has great music. I'll show 2 comparisons now. I don't know if the cover art is actually good, but I like it. It shows the cemetery table in action with Johnny from the House of the Dead 2 creeping in from the top left. It's not the most exciting, but it fits the game. I really don't have any issues with the Pinball of the Dead. I'll bring up a few things, but they're very minor gripes. First of all, why does the high score initial input screen start at Z instead of A? Second, why does the cemetery table have hands for flippers instead of the normal ones that the other 2 tables have? For some reason, it's off-putting to me, but I will say it's one of the things I've always remembered about the game, even when I haven't played it for a few years. Third, whenever you lose your final ball, it doesn't ask if you want to play again or bring you back to the table selection screen, but it restarts the entire game. That means you have to go through all the startup logos, the opening cinematic, and the main menu in order to play again. Why? Fourth, there's something going on with this specific ramp in the game. I can probably fully clear it like 20% of the time. Lastly, when the gate shuts on the movement table, it requires 2 things to be hit in order to open it again. You have to hit the gate and then shoot it into the hole to the right of the gate. I get that they wanted to throw some extra challenge in the game, but it doesn't really add anything good to it. It takes too many things to open the gate and can be confusing if you're new and trying to remember all of the table's gimmicks or if you're playing without the use of the tutorial. Do I like this game? Yep. Do I think it's the best pinball game on the Game Boy Advance? Out of about the dozen or so that I've played, I do. Do you want to play this? Or do you want to play this? Do you want to play this? Or do you want to play this? This? Or this? Yeah, I thought so. As for the higher quality pinball games, I like Mario Pinball Land quite a bit, but that's more of an adventure game using pinball mechanics, so it's not really comparable to a game of this style. Sonic Pinball Party is right up there though, especially the Knights table. I got lost in that for a few hours last week. And many people say Pokemon Pinball is the best, and I'll admit the amount of things going on in that game is really impressive. It also has bosses and sports a 200 character Pokedex, but the static table designs just bore me to tears. In contrast, I love the dynamic style of the Pinball of the Dead tables and have put countless hours in it without ever getting bored. Next time, we'll take a look at the Nightmare Before Christmas, The Pumpkin King, and if there's a specific game that you'd like to see reviewed on GBA-Z, just leave it down in the comments. First person to tell me what GBA game this audio clip is from. I'll pin your comment to the top and send you something in the mail. And don't edit your comment or you're disqualified. Stay nerdy. I'm out.
Getting your nerd on, getting your nerd on, getting your nerd on.
I got a raging nerd on.